Is liberty dying where you live? Escape to Keene at freekeene.com.
I see that we have our noobs up on stage, and we've got Josie, who has just arrived after getting through gridlock traffic to get here. She's come all the way from Philadelphia, so it puts us in the awkward position of actually having to have a new movers panel hosted by a new mover who has now moved back to Philadelphia. So hopefully she'll address that issue at this time here when she gets up on stage, and also you can introduce your wonderful panelists. Josie Wales, a.k.a. The Outlaw. Thanks for coming, and welcome to Keenevention, your very first. The New Movers panel, also the very first New Movers panel. Last year we did what was called the Old School Movers panel, people who've been here for several years, getting their perspectives. And of course, if you missed that, or if you missed any of the panels last year, you can just go to keenevention.info. You can watch the full panel, and as you see, we've got video recording here, so our viewers at home who weren't able to make it will be able to see what's going on. So this will be a perspective from people who are fresh, the people who, you know, they're totally new. All of these folks you see on the stage here are within the last year. They've moved up to New Hampshire within the last year. So, Josie, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, well, my name is Josie, and yes, I am a new mover. I actually moved here back in, I think it was June. And I moved to, it's more northern New Hampshire, Tamworth, with a wonderful group of people. And then actually started to, I've always been the type to kind of move around and, pretty often. So within a couple months, I was down in Keene, which was amazing. And due to, extenuating circumstances that really don't have anything to do with the wonderful people here or New Hampshire or living here, I decided to temporarily relocate back to Philadelphia. So I do plan on coming back to New Hampshire, hopefully soon. And that's about it as far as my backstory goes. But I am actually happy to introduce our wonderful panel, who a couple of whom have had tons of fun taking pictures of me at the most awful moments possible.
Snapchat. Sorry, something in my throat.
Or 3 a.m. chicken.
Yeah.
In any case, and that's just another thing that makes the Free State so amazing, is the community and the fun and the, you can talk about activism and sit around and have a good time and then go out at 3 a.m. for some fried chicken and sit in the middle of the street and eat it and have the best time of your life with some amazing like-minded people. So in any case, we have Joël to start, Shire Dude Andrew, Stephen, and Chris. If you guys would like to take a turn, just kind of introducing yourself, what you do, and why you came here.
Well, I guess we're starting at this end. My name's Chris Rietmann. We kind of got into this whole thing less than a year ago and found ourselves up here in a real short period of time. We came most recently from Pennsylvania, and we live in Alstead, which is just north of town. Colleen does some volunteer work, and I run a business out of my house and stay involved in the community that I belong to up in Alstead and the activist community here in Keene.
Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Daves, and I moved to Keene mid-July this year. I did something I hadn't heard of before that I call moving to a place you haven't seen. It's a little different. You should try it out. It's pretty fun. I moved to Keene with my wife and our children without having a place lined up to live in. Depending on your personality, that's either exciting or insane. So you have to make a choice there. It's still worth the look on people's faces as I tell them that. We packed up all our stuff in U-Haul moving pods and shipped it here all the way from the West Coast. Our stuff was in the Keene U-Haul storage facility for 2 months as we traveled across the country visiting friends, family, and points of interest. And let me tell you, it's paid off. We're in an awesome home and are loving it here in Keene. I don't know what it's like where you live, but the Liberty community is active here. Please take the opportunity you have here in Keene to explore the town and people. And if you haven't already signed the Free State Project Statement of Intent to move to New Hampshire, do it today. It's totally worth it.
Hey guys, I'm Shire Dude, or the artist formerly known as Andrew Vermiglio.
Or Prince.
I moved to Manchester, New Hampshire just in May. After seeing Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree, I signed the Statement of Intent because I just knew I had to be here, just from that movie. And I came to Liberty Forum this past February, and I couldn't stay away, so I looked at all the stuff in my apartment, and I figured I could fit that in my Honda, so I just packed it all up and drove over here. And since then, it's been amazing. I've been doing art and comedy at shiredude.com, and on Monday, I'll be launching my 3rd show. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Well, I'm Joël Valenzuela. I've been involved in the Liberty movement in some way, shape, or form for a little over a dozen years. I've mostly been professional in the sort of nonprofit world, and I was just looking for the next front line of liberty. And this was the logical choice, but I hesitated for a little while because there was no sort of big think tank, no structure. There was just nothing. It's like the sticks, just a bunch of people coming out here trying to make liberty happen. And eventually I just decided, you know what? I don't care if I've never set foot in New England before. I don't care if I have nothing but the possessions in the back of my car and first month's rent. I'm just going to drive out and make things happen. So I did it, and it's been the best choice of my life. And I understand that a lot of times when moving here, there's not a lot here waiting for you. You have to claw a lot of institutions out of the granite, but it's the thrill of a lifetime.
Yeah, it sounds like the moving to a place you haven't seen is quite a common thing here. Yeah.
Well, you just can't say no to the best chance at liberty in our lifetime. You just can't.
It's probably just common to people like us. I don't know. I mean, the average person, they just about have conniption fit if you tell them you did that.
Excuse me. Well, thank you all for sharing your stories. Now, I know a lot of people have that one moment, that last straw, that that one event, or situation, or thought that catalyzes the move here. If you've had one of those, what was it?
Well, I'll hop in here because Victimless Crime Spree was mentioned earlier. God, I hate to admit that I'm somewhat of a TV and movie junkie. I just am. I'll stay up to all hours of the night after everything else is done just to watch something. But after getting involved in the Ron Paul campaign 2012, yes, I've been a neocon for the majority of my life. Thank you very much.
Your sins are forgiven.
Yeah, but this is my penance in essence. But after I got involved in that and started questioning all my beliefs, then I started looking around for, media and what could I see. And before I really even got into the YouTube thing, I came across Libertopia and I came across Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. And those two things, I think, probably catalyzed, it just suddenly felt that it was right. Libertopia said, move to New Hampshire. Victimless Crime Spree said, we've got to go check out the Keene area. And when we pulled into New Hampshire for the very first time ever, our first stop was in Keene. We wanted to see Central Square. We wanted to see these people. We wanted to understand what it was that was drawing this very active group to this small little town, and why wasn't I hearing everything about Manchester, and why wasn't I hearing all about Nashua and everywhere else, but why was all this stuff in Keene? That was it for me.
Yeah, my event, the catalyst change moment, was being arrested for a victimless crime. Surprisingly, it was a crime I'd never even heard of. The police just made it up, but it was in their books. And it wasn't even a town I lived in. I was visiting a town next to mine. And then after that, it was like, wait, you can't do this. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this. So they did it. And after that, I started thinking this is wrong. They shouldn't do this. I didn't hurt anybody. And got interested in the Ron Paul campaign, similar to yourself, and found the ideas of liberty. And that's kind of been the rabbit hole I've been going down. So.
Real quick, if you don't, do you mind sharing what the crime was that they made up?
I'll share that later. Is that fine? Yeah? Cool. All right.
Absolutely fine.
It's a cliffhanger. I like it.
Such a
It's
tease.
really a series of moments that moves you here. And probably one of my best in the series is when I was at Liberty Forum, one of the nights, Rob Mathias, who is now my co-host on the Rebel Love Show, he took me out for the tour, the same tour that he got like his first night in Manchester. And we went to 2 different activist clubs, Area 23 and that place. And we went to an agorist restaurant, and it blew my mind that those places existed, and you really had to come here to see it. And that was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, well, I had always been sort of looking at the next big thing, the next big flashpoint in this struggle for liberty, and I was already, my eyes were already focused on New Hampshire for a long time, but what triggered my move was good old Representative Cynthia Chase calling us out as the biggest threat to what she holds dear.
The biggest threat.
Yes, and I said I kind of like the sound of that, but more importantly, what that signified to me was that stuff is happening here that's important enough that the opposition is getting scared, and I just it was as soon as that happened, I made a plan to move out. I started planning my move out because it's sort of in my mind, I'm going to miss out on all the action if I don't move right this moment. So I I pledged to move within a year, and I moved like 6 months later.
Well, I will jump in here as well. Now, I'd love to say that there was one moment and, one cathartic moment where I just decided, this is it. But in reality, the reasons for my move to New Hampshire are, I guess, threefold, you'd say. One, I just move a lot, and I like to experience new things and, learn and grow from, different areas. And I get very restless and, all of that. Another is the people. And the people, certain people in particular, who actually I just respected, admired, and had an opportunity to actually live in a house with, which was Kate Ager, who has become one of my closest friends, Ademo, Pete, and Silver Dave. Now that didn't, it didn't work out as well as we all, thought. It wasn't this grand utopia, but it was an amazing experience, and I was so happy that I did it. It's fourfold. Also the beauty. The beauty of New Hampshire, the mountains, I could be stuck in gridlock and, turn to my right and my left and look straight ahead and have the most beautiful view in the world. So that's another one. Also, as much as I enjoy my solitude, I love my solitude and my privacy. It's been quite some time since I, put myself in a position where I had to work within a small community and live with other people and be a part of something and kind of just broaden my horizons. So I would say those were my reasons. Those catalysts all kind of congealed together, and then it all happened, and it was a spur of the moment. I, talked to Ademo and said, "Hey, is that room still open?" He said, "Yep," and I said, "All right, I'll see you there in a couple weeks," and that was that. So I would say the people and the sense of community and the support and the communication and all of it is just. That's paramount. Great, 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 great people in New Hampshire. So, okay. Now, where a lot of people moving to a new place, with some expectations, what surprised you the most once you got here?
So I think this is the established direction each
Yes,
time.
Yeah,
established
yeah.
legal precedents.
Okay. Followers, sheep, follow my lead.
We just assume that you're.
Can you repeat the question now that I completely distracted myself?
Okay, I'll rephrase.
See, that's why I didn't go first.
Good move.
Was there anything that surprised you once you got here?
Yeah, and we've talked about this a lot with people we've met up here, and I've lived in states, in towns for 10 years. That seems to be like my statute of limitations anywhere I live. After that, I feel I'm no longer welcome and I have to move on. But when we first moved to Keene, you come up here a couple times, you meet the KAC folks, you meet the LRN team and stuff like that, and then you make the move. When we moved into our house, which is just north of town here, we have the largest U-Haul truck pulling the largest U-Haul trailer. We went from a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house into a 1.5 bath, 1 2-bedroom house. We had a ton of stuff. 40 people showed up to help us move in. It was insane. So what my biggest surprise was how tight the community is. And it's not just, the half dozen people you might see on the porch at the CAC. It's this network of people in and around, specifically in and around Keene. I'm speaking around that, and I'm sure it's the same way in Manchester. I feel that I've met more people, and I have more close friends than I have anywhere else I've ever lived. Part of it is we all have things in common. We're all passionate about liberty, and we are all driven towards that. But the level of community, I think, is the thing that amazed me the most.
So could I see by a raise of hands who here does not live in New Hampshire and has not signed the statement of intent? Define live. Exactly. Well, that was going to be, that's my point. That's my point, because if you're staying at the hotel tonight, you're actually living in New Hampshire. So you might as well sign the intent, because you've already qualified the necessities of the intent. So anybody that's staying here, you should totally sign it. But back to the question, I think the activism is what surprised me. I expected it from what I saw, but to see it happening is what surprised me. There's a quote I like, there are 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil to the one who's striking the root. And I do believe the activists in Keene are striking at the root of important issues of freedom. You may not like how they're getting people to talk about the issues, but people are talking about them, including, the like of the front page time or the New York Times front page and things like that. So,
what surprised me since I moved to Manchester is the recognition of things that are basic to us by the average person. For instance, Cop Block. When we go out in Manchester and do the checkpoint activism where we block the checkpoints, people come up and high-five us and hand us dollar bills and say, "Thank you, Cop Block." And I didn't even say they just know that the people with the cameras and the signs are Cop Block. Already, I don't have to explain anything. It's awesome. And Bitcoin. Last night, we were in the Red Arrow Diner, me and Joël, and I do this stupid little activism on the back of every
critically
receipt.
important, I'd like to say.
Yeah.
And hit him up for his Yelp activism after the talk.
Oh, the Yelp activism is great, but we'll talk about that later. On the back of every receipt I ever get in a restaurant, I write, "Please accept Bitcoin," and then a website like weusecoins.com or coinbase.com/merchants, right? And so I wrote that, and the Red Arrow waitress comes over, and she says, "Oh, Bitcoin, I saw that on the TV the other day. I know you guys are talking about it a lot. It's getting big." And she was really excited about it. So that's fantastic.
Well, probably what surprised me the most is just how bootstrapping it everyone around here seems to be, and I gotta work back from there. So I spent a couple years working in D.C. in the libertarian machine, again hacking at the branches, and there's probably close to as many libertarians in the D.C. metro area as there are in the Free State Project. There's a lot of concentrated effort, except they all have careers out of it. They all get to do it full time. They all got a lot of money behind it, a lot of organization, a lot of professional talent, things like that. And where has it gotten them? And so by the impact of everyone here in New Hampshire, I kind of in some way expected a more well-oiled machine. And I come here and it's anything but, which is it might be a left-hand compliment, but it's definitely a compliment, because anything is possible here. You don't have to fight this massive morass of competitive interest. You don't have to have a well-oiled, well-funded machine to get anything done here. You just have to get up and do it, and you can have an impact. I mean, from all the years of slaving away and trying to fight for liberty elsewhere, and then I show up here and I just start doing stuff, and I've been in the paper several times, just like, it's so easy. You just go and start doing things. And so now that makes me excited, just seeing how underdeveloped the whole sort of professionalism of the place has been, because it shows me, what if we actually get some money? What if we actually get more organization? What happens when we really polish up the machine here? What can we accomplish for liberty? And it's just, it keeps me up at night just thinking about all these possibilities of where we can go in the future.
Just speaking on that point about getting the finances behind it, if I could, I'd like to thank the sponsors of this event. Thank you, Porcupine Real Estate, Free Press Publications, Free Keene, and the Shire Society for making the event possible. Let's give them a round of applause to thank them. Because the economic side is very important. You can't do this without the economic side. And let's try to have a definition of activism for this panel. And there's one I looked up. We don't have to take it, as a commandment. But activism is defined as efforts to promote, impede, or direct social, political, economic, or environmental change. And that's totally what we're doing here. I'd also like to take a moment to thank everyone for attending today. I think that you being here is a form of activism, and you're promoting the goals of the convention by focusing on the activism and the activists of the Shire. Whether you know this or not, moving here is activism, and I've done it. Moving here does all the things. You're changing the social, as you mentioned, writing notes on receipts about Bitcoin. You're changing the political, and you're changing the economic conditions of the Shire when you move here. So.
Okay, since I lived in 2 communities in New Hampshire, I will say, I'll tell you guys what surprised me about both. The first one, when I lived in Tamworth with, like I said, Kate and Ademo and Pete and them, I was surprised by how the motivation, the honesty, the open communication. I think I just said that, and basically just how welcomed I was immediately into their home, without any of them having ever met me. There were some really tough situations that we went through, but the communication and the openness and the support and the willingness to see the other's point of view was just astounding to me. I couldn't, there were times when I was just amazed because, I came from Philly where people are like, screw you, who cares? No, there are some really great, really, really amazing activists in Philly, and those are not who I'm speaking about. You have Jim Babb and Mike Salvi and all them who are amazing, but in New Hampshire, it's almost everyone. Now, in Keene, what surprised me was I don't know how to explain it. I guess the spontaneous organization and support and communication, the two-way radios, when something's going down, immediately everyone has their two-way radio on. So whoever's the closest to, a serious situation, will react to that and then go. Not everyone can go all the time, but everyone's willing to do it when they're available and when they can. For an example, there was a man being tased at McDonald's, and I heard from upstairs, and it was kind of broken up because it was hitting the repeater on the 2A, but something tased, something this, something McDonald's. And I just ran and thought, oh gosh, I am in my pajamas, and oh my gosh, and I kind of just threw a sweatshirt on and answered, and it turned out it was Derek J. Freeman who was there, witnessed it, was filming from his car, wanted backup, and I was there in 6 minutes, and we recorded it, and that's not me bragging, that is just what happens in Keene, and it's amazing, because the police employees don't do that. They can't do that, because it's not in their job description. What we're doing and what's happening is making the state obsolete, because we're pulling the support out from under it, and we're doing the job that they're supposed to do better than they're doing it. So,
just to add to that point about response times, only in New Hampshire do cop blockers get to your house faster than the cops.
I would agree with that. Okay. Now, after we're talking about how, is there anything that surprised you? Let's talk about, now be honest, because this is how we grow and learn and talk about what to work on. Is there anything that disappointed you once you got here?
I don't know if I'd say disappointment, but I would say, well, yes, disappointment in my own planning. You think you've got every aspect of your move nailed down. You've got spreadsheets, you've got lists, you know everything. It's going to go perfect. Colleen, perfect? One of the interesting things was, we knew we were moving in February, the end of February, after winter's over up here. Check. No, number one screw up. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. After second winter's supposed to be over. Well, this year was a bad year by any stretch anywhere in the country for winter. We knew we had a wood pellet stove, so okay, well, once we get up there, we'll just run out and buy some wood pellets, no problem. Okay, this was the year that they were shipping wood pellets to places in the United States they had never shipped wood pellets before. Southern Texas was buying wood pellets because the winter was so cold. And that meant that there were no wood pellets to burn for heat. So what do? I had an old kerosene heater that I brought up from Pennsylvania. Okay, no problem, got a backup, always have a backup. Here's an interesting fact. You can't buy kerosene in Keene. You can't buy kerosene in most of Cheshire County. I don't know what regulation this is. I'm not exactly sure why it passed. But you cannot go to a gas station like I always could in every other state and just buy some goddamn kerosene. Excuse me. So, backup shot. We finally did find a place. It's almost to Swansea, so it's about a 45-minute drive from my house to go down and buy 5 gallons of kerosene. So, in retrospect, there's been a million little things like that. We thought we'd have enough room for things. We thought that this would be this way, and it really wasn't that way. So, I don't have any real disappointments in what I expected, because like many of you that moved or many of you that are thinking of it, you're going to do your research, but you're going to probably disappoint yourself more than this area disappoints you or the people or the activism. That's my 2 cents.
Cool. So you were saying you did get kerosene in Keene, or was it in Swansea?
Swansea.
It was in Swansea, because you said it was near, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing that disappointed me is a communication thing. There's most people in this room probably know there's some opposition to activists moving to Keene. Some activists, you could call them counter-activist groups, but not much activism happens. And the lack of communication between the two groups is something that's vagrant to me. It's standing out. And I don't know what steps I could take, or I'm sure others are interested, but I would totally love to like have a piece, olive branch extension. Like, let's work together on what we both like and not talk about what we don't like. Seems there's a lot of energy spent. I'm not saying who's spending the energy because I don't know personally, but from what I hear, there's a lot of energy being spent in this head-to-head thing, and it's not necessary. I don't think it achieves anything. But.
I will jump in on that real quick. I agree with you on that. Just because yes, they are supporters of an oppressive state. However, I have found that they are treated by by a lot of freedom activists in Keene worse than these activists actually treat cops and politicians. They're more polite to a district attorney or this or that, or people who are legitimately violent individuals, aggressive, violent, and doing everything they can to make sure that good people get behind cages.
Well, that sounds like fear, like they're afraid of the system, which is legitimate. I know why they're afraid, but they're probably not afraid of us because we say we're peaceful and we act peaceful.
Well,
so,
I mean,
if they're used to being controlled by fear, we can't win them by fear. That won't work.
No, I agree with that. And I think that I kind of think that, especially in like in Ian's case, I understand that you catch a lot more flies. With honey, right? A lot more bees with honey.
Rather
What's
than
the
vinegar,
thing?
yeah.
That thing that they say.
No one says it anymore. You don't need to memorize it.
And I understand that, but I also think that should apply to the Stop Free Keeners because they especially the younger ones, because the younger ones are just going off of what they've heard their parents say. It's literally indoctrination. It's very difficult. That's pretty much it. I mean, I could go on and on about how I would deal with them, but, whatever.
We don't have to explain it. You just asked my disappointment, so, yeah, we concur on that.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
But also, to be fair, I have zero issue with being extremely rude to police employees, politicians, judges, all that kind of stuff. So that's just me, to each his own and her own.
And not to monopolize this end of the table, but I do want to say this too. Not everybody in this particular area or everybody in New Hampshire feels that their best method of activism is cop blocking or in your face. It's not always the strong. There's a lot of people, a lot of us that do tend to work from within the system and try to weaken it from the inside. So I do a lot of work with local government, and one of the things I should have said this surprised me is how quickly we've been accepted by our local community in Alstead. Town's got a couple thousand people, but, I'm being asked to run for selectman. I'm now the chairman of our town's budget committee that they've never had, that there is room for those people that want to do that stuff too. And sure, yeah, we still come out to Keene events and and try to get involved in the activism there. But if you're thinking that that's the only activism that goes on up here, it's not really accurate.
No, not at all, and I absolutely agree with exactly what you said. I was more relating it to the people, the Keene activists who, the way they treat, I think it's amazing, how Garrett went and offered them tacos and this and that and that kind of stuff, and that's great. But a lot of what it's difficult. I think reaching out is not a horrible thing because there are very limited amount of ways that you can actually open someone's mind or bring someone over to the right side of history. Or to eliminate, a threat to people's freedom. One of them is to kill them, which is I'm not a huge fan of doing. I don't advocate that. Another is to convert them. So, you make less of them and more of us. That's the best possible scenario. So.
Well, and killing doesn't change their mind. It squelches their opinion. It doesn't really, like you said, the way you change people's minds are either to kill them or convince them. Killing doesn't change someone's mind. It just gets rid of them. You know what I mean?
Maybe makes another one of them, too.
It nullifies. It's person nullification. That would be double speed. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, complaints about New Hampshire.
No, complaints about New Hampshire, and it doesn't have to be about activism. Like,
Yeah.
Once you hear mine, you're just going to be like, that's stupid.
I was just gonna nitpick about like the restaurant scene in Manchester. You know, I'm from Los Angeles area, so
Get out of my brain.
like there's three things. There's a 9% meal tax, which just shouldn't exist.
Boo.
Yeah. The bars close too early.
Boo.
Right. What's the hashtag? YOLO swag blaze it.
420 blazing.
And nobody will accept my Dogecoins. Now that I've said those three things, agorism has solved all of those problems. So I really don't have anything to complain about.
Well, there's nothing really surprising to complain about. I mean, nothing's perfect, and obviously I come into this knowing that thing. The funny thing that happens when you take a bunch of activists, and activists aren't just an occupation, they're kind of in the blood. There's these people who are just very strongly opinionated, have no fear, and are just used to just shouting their opinions in people's faces, even peacefully, right? But still just a very cantankerous, excited group that's used to just not letting things slide, just going full force into it. Sometimes that's ended up being like a dog chasing its own tail. And it's ended up sort of turning on a lot of the good activism in the community. Every once in a while, for example, you have people who are trying to work within the system, and then you'll have, again, their friends turning against them and saying, "Oh, voting is violence, man, and you just suck, and this and that," or "I don't like your style of stuff. You aren't welcome in our town, our little social club, whatever." Just a little bit of tone it down, guys, a little bit. Just Go fight for liberty. Don't argue so much. That's the only thing I would say.
Mine's the pizza. The pizza sucks.
I'm sorry.
There's no good pizza. And I come from Philly, and that pizza is the shit. Excuse my language. But that pizza's amazing, and it's wonderful, and I come here and I eat a piece of pizza, and I'm like, what is this thing? So, I mean, maybe that'd be a pretty good I used to make pizza. Maybe I'll start a pizza business when I move back here. I make the best pizzas that ever did live.
Will you accept Dogecoin?
I'll accept Dogecoin.
Will you accept? No.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, when it comes to the activism, nothing at all disappointed me. I really didn't come into this with any expectations. I've lived in a lot of different communities, and I know that a lot of people can be different. So I kind of just came into it thinking, can't wait to find out how this is. So that's about it for me. Now, what is your favorite thing about New Hampshire? Now, let's not even talk about activism. Nothing, not the people, just the state. For all of the people who will see this, explain to people what is the most wonderful thing about living in New Hampshire.
The pizza. There you go.
Touché.
It's taken me a while, and it's probably a little different depending on where you live, but I really do like my local community of mostly status. But the thing is these are these stereotypical New England types, who most of which moved here from someone else, but they've all adopted the same persona, but are absolutely accepting and willing to welcome you in and willing to hear new ideas. When I hear someone in our selectmen's meeting, one of the selectmen say, maybe we don't need to regulate that. I'm like sitting there going, what a win. What a win. That's great. So, yeah, I've really, really fallen in love with the people, and that surprised me. I thought I would be ostracized, more so.
Cool. I'll go personal. One thing I really like is going on walks in the woods. It's like a like a spiritual, natural thing that's a lot of fun to do. And I think this place is great for that. There's so many trails. I've been here since mid-July, and I thought I've hit almost everything in town, but I was totally wrong. There's way more.
This is the first fall that I've ever seen, ever. Like the trees, what's happening to the trees? They're broken. It's insane. It's mind-blowing. And pictures can't even capture it.
Well, I would sort of touch on points 1 and 3. The real thing, we have work to do here, but we don't have that much work to do because the locals, the community is just, they're great people, and it's just everything we're trying to accomplish is so much easier than anywhere else just because the people seem to be much more receptive to that kind of stuff. It just, it's almost like coming home to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I would definitely say, if we can leave activism completely out of it, I would just say, the fall, but not just the fall, like the winter, the spring, the summer. I personally have no beef with any of the seasons here. I think it's awesome. I think that, I've been through all of them. I've driven around the state for work all over the place. There's, nothing gross in New Hampshire. It's all pretty, it's all cool, it's all nice. And, I moved out from Satan's butthole, Arizona. And so there was some parts of it that just, there's, 3 nice things and the rest is just nasty. And here it's everything's nice. This little town, this is quaint and adorable, beautiful fall, beautiful snow, beautiful everything. Oh, the beach is nice. It's this and that. There's maybe neighborhood in Nashua or something, but other than that, it's pretty much good.
Okay, I will say that it is the people, the laid-back nature, the acceptance of all people. The restaurant that I started working in Tamworth, it was, I think, my first day back from Portfest. It was on my birthday, actually. I got the job, July 1st. So it was my first day back from Portfest because I had traveled a little in between Portfest and that. In any case, I went in, got a job immediately. Sat down and spoke with the manager for an hour and a half, 2 hours. She asked me tons of questions. I always brace myself when people ask what I do, and because I'm not going to not say it. So I did, and I kind of expected this or that or whatever. But she just said, "That's great, that's amazing, keep going." And then when a couple of my roommates, Kate and Kate and Ademo visited, but when Pete and Amanda and Brock, I think, came in, and they left a cop block warning pamphlet on the table. And, which is great. I think it's amazing. But again, I kind of braced myself because they were like, your roommates are here and they're talking about, stopping the police and doing all this and that. And once they read it, they saved it. Until I left, that warning, that pamphlet's still there. They were all really accepting and really wonderful. And they were really supportive of my activism. They called me outlaw, and we're really awesome and we're really, really cool about it. So, and I noticed that with a lot of people, everyone's really laid back. There's no rush. There's no beeping in traffic. There's no this. There's no, there's no just hurry up and wait. The people are just laid back and accepting.
I'd like to spring off the restaurant story a little bit because my place of work,
obviously I'm that crazy looking car with all the bumper stickers, right? Because, of course. And so a couple of my students came in and said, "Hey, that was a really awesome bumper sticker that says I do not consent to any searches." It has Seth Hippel's law firm there. And they're like, "Oh, that's awesome, that's awesome." And then next time I came in and I had one, I'm like, "Here, just for you." And then she just about flipped out with joy. It's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is great. It's going right on my car." I don't feel like such a freak, with these people. It's like coming home.
I agree. Thank you. Okay, so a lot of my questions I've crossed off because they've been answered within the answers. I will say I guess my last one before we kind of give it up to the audience, if they'd like to ask any questions, would be, what have you learned? What is one thing that you have learned since moving here?
Any way you can narrow it down a little bit more?
Oh, I mean, like, what's something, okay.
I learned a couple new songs on the ukulele, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, been studying Euclidean geometry, so, right.
It could be, you know what, it could be that. It doesn't have to be anything ridiculous. However, I mean, what have you learned? Okay. I don't know how to explain it. Okay, how about I give my answer, and then you guys can use that as an example. Okay. One thing I learned was that just because, and this is thanks to Chris Cantwell, who put it all into perspective when I had kind of a tough situation, is that, you know, I always kind of assumed that because we're all like-minded and we all have the same goal, that we all have to be really good friends and get along and like each other and, you know, never ever have issues. But in reality, you know, just because we like freedom, just because a bunch of people like freedom doesn't mean that they're all compatible and they all have, you know, the same interests and personalities. So I kind of learned to accept that because, you know, after, you know, being in a situation where I was not compatible with another activist, anarchist, whatever you want to call it. But that was a very cathartic moment because it made me realize that freedom means, you know, it also means letting people to be free to be who they are and being confident in who you are and how you feel and in your own activism and your own all that. Anyway.
Well, thank you for that example. That helps. I think I've learned that the plurality of approaches is accepted. And one of my concerns when I moved to Keene was, okay, well, now if I'm going to be an activist, I have to be an activist the Keene way. Otherwise, you know, nobody else is going to be supporting of me, and I'll be out there, you know, I'll be out there on my own. And, you know, we're on our way up, and I'm explaining to Colleen what to expect when she goes into a holding cell, you know, because I've been there. You know, this is what's going to happen when you get arrested. For filming the cops, so just be ready for that. And when the rubber glove, I won't even go there.
Thank you for not going there.
Yeah, but like I said, you know, just as much as I'm very supportive of the Keene folks, they make the New York Times. Alstead Budget Committee has not yet made the New York Times, but they are supportive of my efforts, which are things like, you know, running for sheriff or doing stuff in my own little town, and other people. There's a whole community of people around the state that are doing things in different ways. There is no one set way. There is no one thing that's going to get you, you know, if you're doing it the way that you feel and the end result is liberty, then nobody's going to give you any slack for it, and you're going to find a lot of people that will support you. And that's what I've learned. There's a place here for you. If your goal is liberty and you're willing to do the work in whatever way you think is right, if the goal gets us there sooner, you're going to have a lot of support.
So I learned that a lot of the locals in New Hampshire actually do love liberty, even if they never even had the ideas of liberty explained to them. I don't fully understand it. I think it's just a cultural thing. It's an awesome thing. It's nice to know. I learned this at Pork Fest at the end of June. Just talking to a lot of people. I said, oh, are you, you know, FSP or Free State Project? And they're like, nope, we're just natives. What are you hanging out with all of us? Well, you guys are fun to hang out with. We agree on stuff. I was like, that's awesome. And that's the plurality thing you're talking about. Not everybody has to call themselves an activist or FSP. If they love liberty and if they live liberty, that's what's going to happen. It's going to win.
What I've learned, It's something that I probably should have already known from like the Austrian School of Economics, which is specialization of labor, what you're doing. When I first got here, I dabbled in pretty much everything, and that led to a bit of burnout. And I got tired. I got tired of saying yes to every activism opportunity that was presented to me, because you can't do it all. So it's cool to dabble in the very beginning, but I'm learning now that just to do what I'm best at out of those things, and narrow it down and hone in on my actual skills.
Yeah, my point is sort of a springboard off that is it takes all kinds, right? There's so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and we're all such on the same level in a lot of ways. Like you find people with high school dropouts and then people with doctorate programs, and there's no like down up looking at each other. It's all eye to eye. This is the weirdest place in the world, because there's people in their late teens and people old enough to be their grandparents, and they're buddies. They're not like, oh, Sonny, come here. It's like, no, it's just like you're equals. They're just buddies hanging out, sharing a drink or other things. And it's just like it's so weird. But one thing we forget is there's a treasure trove. There's a gold mine of talent and achievement that people are just really quiet about. There's just a lot of people who've done incredible things, had crazy lives, have so much to offer, so much talent and potential. And you just got to go out and find these people and work with them in your division of labor specialty, right? You find funny people, right? Musicians, like how many musicians I've run into, and they're just like, oh, yeah, I do this, I have my own this, I'm so good at that, and I just never knew it. It's like, why don't we all collaborate? And these collaborative institutions and groups aren't there. But the people, the tools for that are there. If you're funny, you like to be on camera, talk to this guy. If you're into political type stuff, talk to Keith. If you're into, if you're into the whole cop blocking thing, anyone on the last panel, just get plugged in, because there's a lot of people with a lot of crazy talents out there.
Okay, before we go to the very last question, I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions for anyone on the panel. Oh, hi.
Hello. Yeah, so there's the line over here for
thanks.
questions
I
and
wasn't
the
looking
microphone.
back there.
So before I get to my actual question, Stephen, did you ever say that victimless thing that wound up getting you a matching pair of bracelets?
Yeah, they matched perfectly. Thank you for bringing that part up.
Very shiny.
So I was in a town of Fairlawn in Ohio, and apparently if you go to pump gas and your kids are sleeping in the car and you go inside to pay for said gas, you have done what's called leaving children unattended in a motor vehicle.
What?
Yeah, that's what they call that. So don't do that if you're in that town. Every other town around there has never heard of that. They don't even have a court system to enforce it, so they take you to a different town where I live that doesn't have that law. So that was not fun at all. They didn't think, they're like, you're endangering. I'm like, I leave my kids alone 8 hours every day. It's called sleeping. I do. The 5 minutes of me not being in the car with you, yeah, you're okay. Awful, right? So
no one tells Stefan Molyneux.
Oh, man.
Okay, so the actual question for all five of you, I've actually been to move-in parties for 2 of the 5. So if the other 3 of you ever had a move-in party, could you explain for people that haven't moved yet the joyousness of a move-in party? And Chris, I know that you can explain how quickly porcupines can unload what was that, like a 200-foot trailer and a 90-foot U-Haul truck?
It was a super tanker. We actually had to get a whole tugboats to pull it up. It was that big. No, it was very quick. And again, what amazes me is, you just put out on, the Free State Movers Facebook page, you put a pretty picture of your house or something like that and say move-in party. If you mention the words pizza and beer, this helps. Your only goal is to keep them hydrated and to stay out of their frickin' way, because they will mow you over. It's good to have somebody directing things off the truck. Good to have somebody in the house to make sure things go where they need. But other than that, you just want to get out of their way, because it's a force of nature. That's all I can say. It was that fast.
I concur. And when I moved here, like I said, I boxed my things up in U-Haul pods and shipped them. My things were here before I was. It's kind of perspective there. But there were 3 5-foot by 8-foot by 7-foot pods that I filled up. And I was like, cool, these guys are going to help me unload. All right, cool. So it was like a few days after I got here that I posted it. So we get the pods, and one of them's on backwards. So you can't get the door open more than like 2 foot, and Daryl almost got stuck in the pod. But that all aside, I went to get the pizza like on the hour when people said they were gonna be there, and I get back 20 minutes later, and all the pods are already unloaded. So I didn't even lift anything or do anything. I was kind of spoiled, and Colleen was like, make sure they set up your bed and your washer dryer. They did all of it. I mean, seriously, and it was fast before the pizza was there. So.
I didn't even get a move-in party, man.
Neither did I. I
didn't
unloaded
know.
my own damn stuff.
Yeah, it was like a one-person party, I guess.
Party of one.
But I don't know, maybe I'll have to put my stuff in a truck and we'll do a lap around the house and just have one anyway.
If you have pizza and beer, I'll be there to lift stuff for you.
We're in.
Again next week. I think I pretty much covered. I just unloaded my own. I had a 2-door Civic with all my earthly belongings. Didn't really have anything, so I just took them up the couple flights of stairs and just there we go.
Pretty much what Joel said. One of my moves, Cantwell did help me load a bunch of stuff into his car from Tamworth to Keene, but all of my big furniture is in storage, and so it's basically clothing. I just had a bunch of clothes packed in those vacuum-sealed bags, a record player, a guitar, and just packed it all in and went, and that was it. So a moving party, if I had one, would consist of 3 minutes of people putting moving items, and then the rest would basically be pizza and drinking and fun. So just so you guys know, if I ever move, you better show up.
Hey guys, now freekeene.com, their motto is peaceful evolution. Now for me, when I moved here, I kind of thought of it as like building a free society. But since moving here, it's more about philosophical, spiritual evolution for myself, where I don't even recognize myself in the mirror 3 months ago, well alone when I first moved. My question for you guys, living in this community, of all libertarians and anarchists and whatnot, how has you as a human being changed from when you moved?
I think anybody involved in the liberty movement, I know people hate that. If liberty is on your mind a lot and you think about liberty, maybe that's a better way to put it. I think we're always evolving, and a lot of things that, I'm new to this thing. I woke up late in life, 2012 with Ron Paul, because I couldn't stand anybody else. So my thoughts about anarchism and agorism and things like that, and some of the more left-leaning aspects of libertarianism, I think I've grown more accepting of. That's about all I can say on it. Steve, give a better answer.
Can you repeat the question again? I was listening to him. Can you say it again? Repeat the question again.
How have you changed philosophically?
Okay, so I was thinking that when I would get here, it would be like the cattle mover at the head of a train. It's like you got this V and everyone's flying at you, but it's not like that. Just meeting other people, even that aren't even. I don't like liberty movement because it makes me think of a toilet flushing. So I don't like that. I don't like that phrasing. But people moving for liberty. I mean, there's other people here that are just as cool that you can talk to. Hey, with big things like Scotland secession. What do you guys think of secession? What's Scotland doing? And people are like, oh, that's an awesome idea. What do you think about maybe this state doing it? Well, maybe we should. I don't know. So it's not even like no, it'll be blood. It's like, well, maybe we'll see what happens. So that's a nice thing, and I think that's shifting my expectations, philosophically of people.
Before I left California, I started a Liberty on the Rocks chapter mainly to commiserate with liberty lovers there, the few in California, and oh man, between Thursdays. It was terrible. Like, I was so stressed out. I had no one to talk to. I was just on the edge of my seat waiting for that next liberty jolt. And I've calmed down so much since I moved here. It's every day. I can just be cool.
Well, I've kind of been in this generic lifestyle for my entire adult life, so nothing really dramatic changed. The only thing that when I moved here, the only thing that really changed is it's made me a lot more entrepreneurial. Before I was like, I want to fight for liberty. Who can hire me? What job can I do? What can I join? And here, I already joined the cause, and now it's like, now go forth and do liberty. And I'm like, what? How? And it's got me a lot more into the mindset of I got to figure out how to make it, how I got to build up the institutions. I got to actually go create something, make something beautiful, not just rah-rah behind something that's already there.
And I'd like to amend my answer, Rob, just a little bit, because I am new to this whole line of thinking. It's just been over the last couple of years. I honestly thought that the only thing I would encounter would be sort of Rothbardian anarcho-capitalism, and that was what it was, and that's what everybody up here was. Believe me, I've come a long way. You get exposed to a lot of different ideas.
Okay, well, I guess my answer is a lot like what I said earlier. What have I learned? And that's, I've grown as a human being, philosophically, in the way that I have learned to accept that, number one, I'm wrong and I'm not perfect. Number two, I don't have to be friends with everyone or be liked with everyone within this, this community of activists who are working for freedom. And it's, there are people that I don't like and there are people that don't like me. And like my father said a long time ago, someone else's opinion of you is none of your business, which is, that kind of just hits home, and it's what I thought of. So basically, if we can all just work together and get past our differences, even though some of us may really butt heads sometimes, but we can still be able to respect each other, work together, just to kind of make this world unlike it's ever been, a lot better. This is a new age. I'm rambling on now, but in any case, that's how I've changed, Rob.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have a small person moment. All right, there we go. All right, so, tough question. The Free State Project slogan is liberty in our lifetime. Now, you've moved here, you've made the move, you made that big decision. But what's next is you need to decide what aspect of liberty you want to see in your lifetime and what the most important cause is to you. And so what I want to ask is not only what is the most important cause to you, but what you're going to do to try and achieve that with your time here in New Hampshire.
For me, my main primary focus is to work within my immediate area. I want to impact the things that affect me and my family most directly. and that's how big is our tax base? How aggressive is our police force? Do I have the adequate services that I'm willing to pay for? Can I make sure that we maintain an extremely weak building inspector program, or can I weaken it even further? So that's where I'm going. You know, I'm very involved, like I said, in very local politics right around my town, the things that most affect me directly. One thing, if you haven't moved to New Hampshire and you're not familiar with how things really work, a lot gets done in your town. Things that you might in other states go to a state office for or a county office. No, you just go see your town clerk for almost everything. It's very different. So my focus is really in my immediate area, and if I get to a point where I feel like I can do a little more at a county level or something like that, we'll do that. But I'll be one of those guys that will try to work from within the system to weaken it.
Professionally, I'm an IT consultant, so that kind of shapes, that's my area of specialization, division of labor, as you were talking about. So I try to do things along those lines that I would foresee helping the cause of liberty, whether it's working with projects that are creating privacy solutions or a myriad of different tools. I mean, that's where I'm specialized, and that's where I try to focus my time.
I want to trigger the freaking move. That's what I want to do. Earlier, I alluded to a show that's coming out on Monday, which is November 3rd. I'm working on this with Cecilia. We're releasing it through the Free State Project YouTube and Voices of Liberty, which is Ron Paul's new channel. The show is called It's Like This Too. And
Hashtag.
In each episode, we're asking people pretty much the same question: what are they doing to exert their fullest practical effort once they get here? And that's a little excerpt taken from the statement of intent for the Free State Project. And hopefully this specific video project will get more signers and we'll get more early movers.
Well, definitely the Trigger the Move is close to a lot of our hearts, and I do a whole lot of work within the Free State Project proper, going to all these conferences, getting signers, doing all that legwork. Obviously, that's the first, a million things I'm trying to accomplish, but that's the first pivotal thing is just to trigger the move, to get this to happen, to say the Free State Project is a success, we're all here, now watch us. Step 2, I definitely want to create an extra legal economic system, right? I want us all to be able to live without having to slave away paying for all the wars and the other awful things that we don't like to pay for. Because at the end of the day, I'll talk about badass activism. We're such badass that we stand up to the cops, we preach the word and all this, but at the same time, then you go to your 9 to 5, you're working for someone else, and then you're giving so much of the money away to the state, and that's not cool. I would love to have New Hampshire completely drop off the tax map. Just they're not getting anything from us.
Okay, first of all, that was a really tough question, but an awesome one. I don't know where she went. Right here. There you are. Hi. Great question, Laura. And to answer what, I think you asked what we'd like, or what we'd like to see happen. What I personally would like to see happen is to see as many statists converted as possible. I can't put a number on it. Just pretty much every statist I come across. And what I'm doing to make that happen, or to try to make that happen, is to convert people. And there are different ways that I do that, and I adjust my approach based on, how close they are to me. With my family, statist, minarchist, whatever you want to call them. So, they were minarchist, some are statist. I just lead by example. I don't push. I just kind of, if it comes up, I say what I believe in, and, they can share the videos, they can hate me, they can do what they want, with my opinion. But, it's working. and especially with people I work with. I work with 50 people who can't even comprehend that anarchy is a good thing, or they couldn't before. And they would ask why I would promote anarchy and why I do what I do and this and that. And once I explain it, I don't jump on them and scream at them. I have an open dialogue. And a lot of them, there's one girl in particular who now calls herself a voluntarist after fighting with me 6 months ago about the military. Actually, it wasn't 6 months ago. I think it was Thanksgiving, so it was almost a year ago. And it was about the military and supporting the military. And she didn't talk to me for months. And I didn't scream at her or anything like that. I just kind of said, okay, well, this is why I believe what I believe, and you can think what you want. And now she is constantly asking questions as to, how the free market would work and why it's better than the state and all of that. So that's how I do it in my personal life. Now, when it comes to people that I don't know, and, on a grand scale, people, strangers, statists in society that I may never meet. I like to market freedom, first of all. I like to make people understand and make it look pretty, make it look nice, make it look normal or trendy or whatever it is, and kind of let people know that just because we want to be free doesn't mean we're crazy and we want to violently, destroy things and have chaos and violence and murder. And I also, I do, YouTube videos. So, and in that case, I push the envelope because I can't sit down. Like I said to Ian before when I was on Free Talk Live, I don't have the opportunity to sit down and speak with these people and read them. So I just kind of put it all out there, no holds barred, just kind of go for it, and not watered down freedom message. So that's how I do it.
So I noticed that our keynote speaker, Carla Garrick, the president of the Free State Project, is here. Hey, Carla. Are you all right holding off until we finish off all these questions for these folks, just for a little bit? All right, cool. So if you've got a question for the panel, I'm sorry? Cool. If you got a question for the panel, please line up now and we'll get you in. If you're not on a line, then you're not going to get in. All right, so here's my question for you guys. Keenevention focuses on activism. We've got panels all weekend about the different kinds of activism that you'll find. Just today we've talked about Cop Block. We've had the legislative panel early this morning, ladies and their various different activist efforts. And throughout the weekend we'll be hearing from more, civil disobedience or direct action and a lot of different types. We've got all kinds of outreach going on. I mean, there's a lot happening in New Hampshire. As you pointed out, Shire Dude, you got burned out because there was so much that you could plug into, and it was a little overwhelming. Looking at all the activism that we have had and we continue to have, what's missing? From your perspective as somebody who's brand new, fresh pair of eyes coming into all of this, what did you expect to see that you didn't see? What would you like to see that hasn't been created? I realize you guys kind of gave long-term answers for what you want to see in the future, but what's missing immediately that we could do now? We've got plenty of people here. What should we be doing? And you don't have to have an answer for this. If you've got one, please pipe up. I would love to hear it. Thanks.
Hush, you're not a new mover.
I'm on it.
Oh, I was just going to say I don't really have a real good answer for that. This always opens a can of worms because it has to do with voting, and half the people in this room are going to say never vote, and the other half will be vote for my votes. But I'd really like to see a more concerted effort to change election laws to allow other candidates that don't have a D or an R to be able to get on the ballots.
I talked about this a little earlier. I'd like to see an open and communicable dialogue with oppositional forces with the ideas of freedom, people in town, people across the rest of New Hampshire. Whether it's public debates where proceeds go to charities. We can raise a fund, raise $5,000 and give it to a charity if somebody will debate us. Whether it's agorist businesses or agorist providers offering discounts for people that don't like the ideas of liberty if they'll have a 5-minute talk with them and videotape it. I mean, there's tons of areas. I want that debate because I personally dislike the characterization that people that love liberty are antagonists. You might say it's antagonist to status quo, but that's not really the goal. The goal is freedom, not antagonism. So that area, that local area, I'd like to see that be resolved.
I'd like to see an increase in the volume of Manchester activism and just culture in general. We should be going full Keene in Manchester, like all the time. Where's Manchvention, right? It's kind of broad spectrum, but it just needs to be louder. But I moved to Manchester not knowing any of the activism that goes on in Manchester. And yeah, it's got to be louder.
Is that the parallel to Full Monty, Full Keene?
Full Keene.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of, again, I guess we think alike a little bit. I sort of have the same deal. One word, structure. There's tons of stuff happening. Someone's doing election stuff. Someone's doing civil disobedience. Someone's doing cop blocking. Someone's doing agorism. Someone's doing Bitcoin evangelism. There's tons of that, but there's no structure and organization behind that. And Keene tends to be grouchy to say this, but Keene tends to have it together more than anywhere else in terms of that. In terms of, what's happening, when's it happening, who's in charge of making that happen, that kind of thing, who's in charge of organizing it. Like, we can have all the electoral people out there, all the volunteers, but there's no internship program for bringing young people in to do that kind of thing. We can have there's no Manchester Cop Block as far as I'm aware. There's no official chapter, no official people. No one's saying this is, Riaz does a lot of this stuff, but it's not there's no structure, there's no group, no anything. It's just people might hear about it. It might happen, it might not if someone doesn't do something. Jury nullification, the same thing. Then you got the Bitcoin evangelism community. There's plenty of people that are doing it independently, but there's no concerted effort of, okay, we need to convince this business, we need to do this kind of outreach there. It's just kind of people do it whenever they want to. There's no real, the structure behind the agorist business. There's not nearly enough agorist businesses, and those that are, it's you kind of find out about them word of mouth, and there needs to be a whole lot more structure going on. Yes, we do need to go full Keene.
Now, I will, kind of going off what Stephen said, more of an agorist market, like a marketplace. And I know that an agorist grocery store is a little difficult, and it would take a lot of work and a long time. But I think that would be amazing, to have a place in Keene or Manchester where people can go and not have to pay taxes and just buy, sell, trade, and, that kind of a thing. Oh, I have never heard of that.
I have one of the business cards I carry with me all the time for Jessica Love. She runs that. I'll give it to you afterwards. And anyone else who wants to know about it.
Thank you. That was one example.
It's the only stack of business cards that aren't my own that I carry with me.
Yeah, and that's just one example, but I more of like a farmer's market and, that kind of a thing. I guess that's the only thing I can think of, really, off the top of my head. So, that was about it.
Okay. So, first of all, shout out to Jazzy, who's a new mover. She got here in June, and she's loving it here, and she appreciates you guys telling everybody how awesome it is.
We love you, Jazzy.
Yeah, woof woof.
#1 dog activist in Keene. Anyways, I'm calling you out. Question for you.
What up?
When are you coming back?
Oh, I don't know yet. I actually made that pretty clear.
Possible. Come back. We miss you.
I can't commit to that yet. I do plan on coming back. I don't have a date in mind. I just moved a couple times. Give me some time. So no, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I love you to death, but no answer for you.
Is your grand strategy to just move again and again so you artificially force up the mover ticker and then we trigger the move earlier? 'Cause that would be awesome.
So, you know what? To be honest, I'm shooting for spring.
We're holding you to it. Spring of which year?
Thank you, though, for asking. That makes me feel really special. The feels.
My question is not about activism, but more directly to the single people on the panel. So to those who moved and didn't have family or kids and wife, how are you making it out in Manchester or Keene? Are you finding love? I mean, there's more than just activism to life. I mean, you have music, videos, but are you finding love?
I guess I can go first. I did move with family. Seriously, instant family. Like, April of last year, I was in California promoting the FSP at a Young Americans for Liberty conference, and I met Shire Dude. Back then, he was still going by Andrew, and it was just the two of us promoting the Free State Project in California, and then we hit it off, and then we were keeping communications up until he moved now. And then I knew Rob through the Facebooks and talking and all that kind of stuff, and I stayed with him on my drive through in Chicago, and he was just like, every passing day that I'd say, look, I'd post something cool is happening, he's like, I gotta move, man. And then finally I got the call, and he's just like, all right, that's it. I'm going to be moving soon, as soon as I can. And so all these people, and then it's like we're one big brotherhood. It's like, welcome home, brother. And then everyone, you just get plugged in. Before you know it, by the end of the week, you just have, I ain't just, friends and family from anywhere else, but it just, you just get plugged right in. You don't have to spend years developing these friendships and family. It's just, you just come in and you just join part of the gang. And, does that answer your question, Emmanuel? Did you leave? Oh, there we go. Did that answer it? Not really, but... Well, elaborate.
He's talking about a lover, I think.
Oh!
Romantic love. Romantic love.
Okay.
Who you seeing?
I will not disclose names. But, yes, let me put it this way. It definitely depends on what you're looking for. There's, as usual with the Liberty Movement, there is a little bit of a gender gap sometimes. But that's the awesome thing about all we were saying about New Hampshire before. New Hampshire has more women than men. The state as a whole is female heavy, and so if you just go outside, go talk to real people outside of your activist thing. They're out there. And they probably don't think you're that crazy, as opposed to everywhere else you've been. You can say, I actually had, one of my coworkers say, the only good cop is a dead cop. And she's like an older, like upper middle class white lady saying that. And then just the amount of people that you don't have to explain a lot. Just go out and meet people. Point taken.
So I didn't hear that statistic. There's more women than men in New Hampshire?
Believe me, I heavily researched it.
That should be the first line on the Free State Project's website. Reason number 1 to move.
Where all the ladies at.
It really should, actually. It's really great.
Or the women that don't want to be hit on, they'd be like, oh, there's more women, so I'll go there. I mean, you could hit both sides with that. So.
Yeah, nice. Well, talk to Carla after the show.
So we're talking about lovers, I guess.
Have you found romantic love?
My romantic love is the computer that I use to edit Shire Dude videos that are at shiredude.com.
He caresses it oh so gently. Yeah. It's definitely possible.
Oh, also polyamory.
No, whatever.
Did that answer your question better? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, well, I'm single, so I guess I can answer that. I guess it's not something I've ever actually looked for. I'm not, to say that, have you found love kind of implies, actually, it implies that you were looking for romantic love in the first place. And I've been in those situations where I've had it, and I've had some really great relationships. But at this point in my life, I'm really happy with, the love that I have in my life already. I mean, I 100% found love here, but it wasn't romantic love. I mean, when Kate and I became good friends, we fell in love with each other in a very platonic, sister, best friend kind of way, and the love and support, and and getting to know Kate and Lauren and just the women and the men. There's so many amazing men. I mean, yeah, I lived with Kate well, and I had a wonderful time, and we became very close. Pete, Adama, oh my God, I talk to Adama all the time about how much I love him, and he just makes fun of me, which is great. Now, I would say Derek, but I knew him before I moved here, so I fell in love with you a long time ago.
Who hasn't?
Even Jordan Page he loves you, man. He's got a crush. In any case, yeah, I know that doesn't answer your question the way that you probably would have liked, but that's my answer.
What, if any, role has peer pressure played in your move here, your stay here? Were you peer pressured, do you feel, to move here? Were you thinking about leaving at some point and met some peer pressure? Did you feel peer pressure to get into activism, and do you think that was positive or negative?
I'll go first, quickly, because Renee totally just peer pressured me into moving back immediately. No, I mean, and a part of it could have been me and not wanting to leave and feeling guilty for leaving, but I was really dreading, and I said this to Chris, I was really dreading walking across the street and sitting down with Ian and explaining to him that I was leaving, because I did feel as though I was, letting people down, or people would judge me. So there is that, but then again, that could be my own insecurity. I don't know. There was a lot of pressure to move here for years. I said no for 2 years, simply because I felt like I was being, however a used car salesman deals with someone. That's what I felt. And it's
Kidnapped.
I'm sorry?
Kidnapped.
No. Not even badgered. Maybe, and it's not like it's one person that was doing that. It wasn't, and I don't think it was even anyone in this room. Well, Cantwell did, but aside from that, it was, just even Philly people and other people and people I met at events that, move. It's the best place in the world, and I just kind of thought, nah. It had to be my own idea, basically. So. Yeah, I did feel a little pressured, and now I feel super pressured to come back because I love Renee so much that I don't want to disappoint her. But no, and to be honest, it was negative. Not that. That's awesome. But the initial part of it actually delayed my move here, to be honest.
I'd throw in that I probably caused more peer pressure against who I'm with, and that's Colleen. And this is a danger if you suddenly get bitten by the Liberty bug and you want to do everything possible, and my God, the New Hampshire Liberty calendar is filled with 20 events a day, and you know all these great people that are doing stuff, and suddenly you're like, okay, well, Tuesday morning we're going to go, and they may not be, who you're with in life may not be as into it as you are, and you need to be a little mindful of that. And again, that contributes to burnout, and you don't want to burn out the person you're spending your life with.
I think the peer pressure, I think it was positive. For me, I talked about being arrested. It took that incident to really question what's the utility of freedom. Does it have any purpose? I already thought I was free. Found out I wasn't. And then, looked into things, found Ron Paul, found the Free State Project, and I read their statement. I wanted to read it right here. I hereby state my solemn intent to move to the state of New Hampshire. Once there, I will exert the fullest practical effort toward the creation of a society in which the maximum role of government is the protection of individuals' rights to life, liberty, and property. And I read that and I was like, hell yeah, that's what I want. That's it. It didn't take pressure. It was like, yep, that's it. So.
I had a serious lack of peers in California. The guy who started a YAL chapter with me, Young Americans for Liberty, he had to pay Facebook to message me because like I was the only person who he saw who went to his school who was interested in liberty. No peers. By the time I met Joël, my first peer from the Free State Project, I had already decided to move.
Yeah. What role did peer pressure take in me making me come here? Zero. As soon as it's like I came looking for trouble and I found it, right? And now since I've been in the state, I'm never. You can't just. I guess some people can't, but you can't just like come here and just have someone like heckle you. Hey, time to come on, let's go do this. Oh, I don't want. Okay, fine, I'll come fight for liberty. It's like, no, I'm looking for it every waking hour. It's just like I'm probably the person who peer pressures some people, and unfortunately I might have had the Josie effect on some people of leave me the hell alone. Just because you're pestering me, I'm going to delay my action a little bit. Maybe I've been guilty about that.
Well, and one quick thing I want to add is that it is important to be able to read people, because no one wants to, I mean, myself especially, I don't want to feel as though I'm obligated to move here because other people think I should, and I don't want to, ruin a relationship or lose respect for someone, or have someone lose respect for me, or have their opinion change just because I've decided that something else is better for me or for, whoever decides that. There are amazing people here, and I know that I will most likely come back. But then again, if a situation changes in 6 months and something else is better for me, I should be free to do that without being made feel guilty, and just as anyone else should, and still be able to maintain these relationships and work together, and just kind of all support each other. So to anyone who is the type that will really, really, really badger someone, just remember that not everyone, responds receptively to that. And sometimes it's best to kind of lay back and let people do their thing, because once people stopped kind of badgering me to move here, within months, I kind of just decided on my own that I wanted to. So that's it.
I have one more thing to say about that. Was that me? I don't know. Oh, okay. The question of who will build the roads, that's what we're doing here. We're building the societal roads. We're building the relationships, the businesses. We're building all those things. That's the framework for other people to come. We're the early movers. We're the ones who see the high risk investment of moving first and triggering the move. And I guess thinking about what other people were saying, I did have some peer pressure that was against, and that was family ties. They were, we don't want you to go, and it was, hey, this is something I really got to do. This is what I see. I can't live against my own code. This is what I really want. And people that, my family was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. But they're still sad. I mean, they come and visit. I've had 3 or 4, groups of people come and visit. I got more coming. But that's an area that I did see of some pressure against moving, was some family stuff.
Actually, that leads into my question did any of you experience pressure from your families not to move?
Yeah.
And how did you deal with that?
Yes, I moved. No, that's a great question, because I think that's something that's under here if we don't talk about it. I'll let you go first, though. I don't want to jump.
Oh, God forbid we would mess up the trend we have set.
Expectation.
Yeah, I know. I can answer it real quickly. Absolutely not. I'm of another generation, a better generation than all of you. Thank you very much. But no, I mean, my son's 21, 22 years old. My parents have both passed away, so I had nothing really holding me back, other than now I'm trying to get my son to move up here at some point.
So I have young children, 4 and 5, and both my parents are alive. So yeah, we're in different boats. And mine was more of a, hey, don't go, we're gonna miss you. It's like, no, we're just a few hours down the road. I mean, you could drive here during the sun being up and visit. But I mean, I think it's bittersweet, you know. It's like, why can't I have liberty where I'm already at, is a question people ask me. And it's like, well, how much reading do you want to do? It's like there's this large path of reading you can go down to get the intellectual ideas. And the intellectual ideas aren't even the only purposes to move. You know, there's the community, relationship, practical aspect too, so.
I didn't realize how much of an in-the-closet activist I was back in California. But when I told my family I was moving, they thought I was going to like some Obama youth training camp. And I was like, wow, that's really far off base. And then I started talking to them at my going away party about liberty, and I realized they're all pretty much on the same page. So yeah, it was bittersweet at that point. I was like, wow, I kind of had something pretty good here, and I didn't even realize it, and I'm leaving. But no peer pressure to not leave.
Yeah, my family definitely wanted me to stay closer by, and that wasn't even a second thought in my brain because my parents were Silicon Valley yuppies who gave it all to become Mexican cattle ranchers, and they're still there. So, and my mother is like a tax protester and like a rabid constitutionalist, and like one of those, she actually told me, like, as a compliment, I bet you're gonna get arrested someday. So when they're like, she's like, oh, come on, why don't you stay? I'm like, have you not heard what you've been filling my head with for the last several decades? Like, you know where I'm going and why I'm going, and you know you can't stop me. So just don't try. Just maybe move yourself someday. I don't know.
No, I did not face any kind of pushback or anything. I'm amazingly lucky to have the family I do, and they know, I mean, they fully support everything I stand for, believe in, and the way I live. I mean, my mother, I'm one of 5, and my mother has nicknames for all of us, and, you know, my sister is her angel, she is really an angel, but I was always Butterfly, just because she would say that I would just kind of get up and you know, flitter around land for a while, get up, flitter around further land for a while, get up, flitter around land, which a lot of people will tell me that, you know, it's because I have a fear of commitment, or I can't, you know, commit to something or all that, and I like to move around, and it's the way I am, and I think it definitely has helped me grow as a person to experience all these different places and people and cultures and things. And so, no, I actually had full support, and I am really lucky for that. So that's it.
What a great panel. Thank you, guys. It was awesome.
We'd like to invite you to visit freekeene.com. Freekeene.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. Freekeene.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. Freekeene.com.
I should be in Keene, New Hampshire with the Free Staters.